Welcome to Hollywood Fox Recaps. Clapperboard today, we'll dive into an exciting movie explanation that's sure to keep you hooked till the end. Let's get started. Before that, don't forget to subscribe. The movie begins by revealing that a deadly virus called Rage has spread across the city, turning people into zombies. These infected individuals attack and gruesomely devour the uninfected. It's a horrifying situation. The scene shifts to a house where 6 survivors have managed to stay safe from the virus. Among them are Don, his wife Alice, an elderly couple, and 2 others. Inside the house, Alice is cooking with whatever supplies they have left, while Don is visibly anxious. He's especially worried because his kids were on a school trip to France and are thankfully far from Britain, where the virus is rampant. This means they're safe for now. As the group gathers for dinner in their dimly lit home, a strange tension fills the air. No one is speaking, and there's an eerie silence. Suddenly, there's a loud pounding on the door. A desperate voice pleads, "Please let me in. Help me." It's not just any voice, it's a child's. Hearing the child, Alice insists they open the door to save him. When they open it, they realize it's midday with bright sunlight streaming in. The house had been kept dark intentionally to avoid attracting zombies. The child is brought inside, starving, and they quickly offer him food. When asked about his situation, the boy reveals a chilling story. His parents had turned into zombies and were now chasing him to eat him. Don probes further, asking how many there were, and the boy answers a lot. Meanwhile, one of the other survivors, a young woman, is visibly shaken by the boy's story. Nervously, she looks outside and begins to hear terrifying sounds, the unmistakable growls and shrieks of zombies heading their way. Just then, a zombie suddenly attacks the terrified young woman, and before anyone can react, more zombies swarm into the area, trying to break into the house. Alice grabs the boy and tries to escape upstairs. Don follows them but urges Alice to leave the boy behind so they can get away more easily. However, Alice refuses to abandon him. Meanwhile, the elderly couple attempts to hide in another house but falls victim to the zombies. Back upstairs, Alice and the boy are cornered as more zombies flood into the room. Don, from another part of the house, yells for Alice to come to him, but the sheer number of zombies makes it impossible. Overwhelmed, Don panics, shuts the door behind him, and jumps out of a window to escape. As he runs, Alice's desperate cries for help grow faint till they stop entirely. Don, now filled with guilt and shame, runs away while tears stream down his face, haunted by the fact that he left Alice behind to save himself. As he moves ahead, the boy who had been staying at their house reappears. The boy tries to steer a boat but falls into the water in panic, where zombies catch and brutally kill him. Don watches helplessly as the boy is torn apart before he escapes alone on the boat. Somehow, Don manages to get away from the zombies and rows the boat to safety. The story then skips forward a year, revealing that the zombie outbreak is gradually being brought under control. The British city is now under military occupation, with the army working tirelessly to restore order and manage the situation. The sniper team, led by Sergeant Doyle, is tasked with taking out any remaining zombies. Doyle and his team are among the survivors rescued by the army, but the situation remains precarious. 6 months pass, and the zombie threat becomes almost non-existent, with only a few stragglers scattered across the area. A doctor is shown conducting research on the virus, trying to better understand its origins and how it can be eradicated completely. The army initiates a program to repatriate those who had fled to other cities, allowing them to return to Britain. However, strict rules are in place. Everyone must remain in designated safe zones rather than their old homes. The entire operation is being overseen by the U.S. military. By this point, around 100 people have returned to Britain, including Don's children. When the doctor sees the children arriving, she becomes deeply concerned, wondering how they'll manage to protect the kids in such a dangerous situation. During a routine checkup, she notices something unusual about Don's son. His eyes are 2 different colors. Intrigued, she asks him if anyone else in his family has similar eyes. The boy replies, "Yes, my mom's eyes were just like mine." This revelation makes the doctor even more curious, as she begins connecting the dots. Meanwhile, Don is reunited with his children and is overjoyed to see them. Since he has been working with the army, he brings his kids to the safe zone where he's stationed. One night, as they sleep, Don's son begins to have vivid dreams about his mother, Alice. He realizes he's starting to forget her face and begins to suspect that his father hasn't told him everything about what happened to her. The next morning, driven by curiosity and suspicion, Don's children decide to leave the safe zone without telling anyone. They sneak away and eventually find their way back to their old house, hoping to recover photographs of their mom to remember better. However, the army soon realizes the children are missing and begins searching for them. When the kids reach their house, they find the photos they were looking for. But as they search, Don's son hears strange noises coming from upstairs. Cautiously, he goes to check and is shocked to find his mother, Alice, alive. She had been left behind by Don during the zombie attack but had somehow survived. Overwhelmed with emotion, the boy hugs her tightly, but he suddenly feels a sharp pain. Something isn't right. When the children step outside with Alice, they are immediately confronted by the army, who have come to bring them back to the safe zone. Alice is restrained and taken to a lab for testing. The doctors discover something extraordinary. Alice had indeed been infected by the zombie virus, but her immunity was so strong that it prevented her from turning into a zombie. However, her blood was still dangerous. Anyone who came into contact with it could become infected. This discovery leads to a heated debate. The army general decides that Alice is too much of a threat and orders her to be eliminated to prevent any potential outbreak. But the doctor pleads with the general, arguing that Alice's immunity could be the key to developing a vaccine. Her unique blood could potentially save countless lives if studied properly. The stakes are now higher than ever, and the decision about Alice's fate hangs in the balance. When Don learns that Alice is still alive, he immediately rushes to his children. However, his sons are furious with him. They accuse him, saying, "You knew Mom was alive, but now she's become a zombie." Don is overwhelmed with fear and guilt because deep down, he knows the truth. It was his decision to leave Alice behind during the attack. Tearfully, he apologizes to his children, but the weight of his actions hangs heavily over him. As he tries to get closer to Alice, something terrifying happens. Don begins screaming in agony as the virus takes hold of him, transforming him into a zombie. Alice, horrified by the sight, cries out for help, but it's too late. Don fully turns into a zombie and, in a horrifying rage, attacks Alice, killing her in a gruesome and savage way. After killing Alice, Don emerges outside and launches a brutal assault on the army team stationed there. Chaos breaks out as the infected start multiplying rapidly. Meanwhile, the doctor takes Don's children and tries to escape to the safe zone. But Don, now completely lost to his zombie instincts, is already ahead of them. Hearing the screams of people, he begins breaking through doors, spreading the infection even further. Don's son, terrified, runs for his life and hides in an air vent. From his hiding place, he hears the terrifying screams of people being attacked and turned into zombies. The infected start attacking one another, biting and infecting anyone in sight, creating a domino effect of carnage. The entire area descends into pure horror as people desperately try to flee. The military issues an urgent order to the snipers: eliminate everyone, infected or not. This brutal directive shocks Sergeant Doyle, who had been introduced earlier. He struggles with the morality of his orders. His duty was to protect people, not kill them indiscriminately. As he spots Don's son in the midst of the chaos, he makes a split-second decision to shoot a zombie approaching the boy, but spares the child. This act of defiance leads Doyle to abandon his post entirely, leaving the battlefield. Meanwhile, Don's son is taken by a man to a dark room where several other survivors are hiding. In the dim light, he reunites with his sister and the doctor. The room is filled with frightened people, including an elderly woman who peers outside and is horrified by the massacre unfolding. She questions in despair, why are they killing everyone? Why aren't they helping us? At this crucial moment, Doyle arrives and urges everyone to leave immediately, warning them that staying here is no longer safe. The group starts moving, but the army begins firing at them indiscriminately. Amid the chaos, the elderly woman is tragically killed. Doyle, accompanied by the doctor and Don's children, presses on despite the mounting danger. Suddenly, Doyle receives a call from a friend in the army who has access to a helicopter. The friend warns him urgently, hurry up. Orders have been issued to bomb the entire city in a matter of minutes. He shares the location where they need to meet. Desperate to save the kids and the doctor, Doyle leads the group through a tunnel to reach the rendezvous point. However, just before they can make it out, a massive explosion shakes the city. The bombing destroys everything in its path, wiping out zombies and any remaining survivors alike. Doyle, the doctor, and the children make it to the designated location just as Doyle's friend arrives with a helicopter. But the friend brings unsettling news. There are still some zombies trailing behind you. He tells Doyle to hide the group, but what happens next flips the situation on its head. Doyle's friend reveals his true intent, saying, "Look, I was only ordered to evacuate you. If I take any civilians with me, the army will consider me a traitor and execute me." Despite Doyle's pleas, his friend refuses to help anyone else. Torn between duty and humanity, Doyle makes the ultimate sacrifice. Instead of boarding the helicopter himself, he stays behind to help the doctor and the kids. As the helicopter lifts off, Doyle remains, determined to protect the group at any cost. As the group tries to escape, a massive swarm of zombies starts chasing them. They flee towards the city, but the army has already released a deadly toxic gas to eliminate the infected. The air is unbreathable for humans, forcing everyone to take shelter inside a van. Zombies surround a vehicle, banging and trying to break in. However, the toxic gas proves fatal for the zombies, killing them off before they can reach the survivors. Just as they think they've caught a break, the army shows up, aiming to wipe out any remaining survivors, mistaking them for the infected. To make matters worse, their van refuses to start. Doyle, showing incredible bravery, gets out of the van and starts pushing it from behind to get it moving. Unfortunately, this puts him directly in the army's line of sight. Misinterpreting his actions, they assume he's infected and burn him. The doctor manages to drive the van to a tunnel with Don's children, but their relief is short-lived. Inside the tunnel, they encounter Zombie Dawn. He brutally attacks the doctor, killing her, which forces the siblings to split up. Don corners his son and attacks him, but miraculously, the boy doesn't turn into a zombie. Like his mother Alice, he seems immune to the infection. As Don prepares for another attack, his daughter shows up and, in a gut-wrenching moment, shoots her zombified father to save her brother. Devastated by what she's done, Don's daughter breaks down in tears, mourning the loss of her father. After composing themselves, the siblings make their way to a stadium where they come across Doyle's friend, the helicopter pilot. At first, he's hesitant to rescue them, unsure if they're infected. But despite his doubts, he decides to help them. The kids board the helicopter, and he flies them out of the city, leaving behind the chaos of Britain. As the camera pans out, we see the devastation in the city below, a grim reminder of the outbreak's catastrophic impact. But just when it feels like the story might have ended on a hopeful note, we cut to 28 days later. Zombies are seen emerging from a tunnel, making their way into Paris, spreading the infection further. The fate of Don's children and the helicopter pilot remains unknown, leaving the story on a haunting cliffhanger. And with that, this thrilling, heart-pounding tale comes to an end.